Excellencies, these were some highlights from multidimensional and intense activities of Azerbaijani NAM chairmanship from 2019 to 2024. Excellencies, at this historic moment, after 4 years of proudly chairing the movement, we are handing over the chairmanship to the Republic of Uganda with a rich, substantial and institutional legacy. We are confident that Uganda will spare no effort towards further enhancing the role and visibility of the movement and strengthening unity among its member states. I would like to reiterate that although our chairmanship came to an end, our passion and determination for the success of NAM will always remain strong. We will continue to contribute to a just cause pursued by the movement within the NAM Troika. I wish the distinguished friends from Uganda all the best in their chairmanship and express our readiness to extend all the necessary support in this process. Azerbaijan is proud to take over a new important international responsibility. In fall 2024, Baku will be hosting the 29th Conference of Parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. As the host of COP29, we rely on precious support by the NAM member states and look forward to welcoming you to Azerbaijan. I thank you all. Ladies and gentlemen, the next item in the agenda is election by acclamation of the chair of the 19th Summit of the Heads of State and Government of NAM. I propose the distinguished delegations to elect by acclamation His Excellency, Mr. Yoweri Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, as chair of the 19th Summit of the Heads of State and Government of NAM. So I declare His Excellency, Mr. Yoweri Museveni, as the chair of the 19th Summit of the Heads of State and Government of NAM. I invite His Excellency to assume his chairmanship. The floor is yours, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much.
His Excellency, in absentia, the President of Azerbaijan, who has been our chairperson for the last 3 years, who is represented here by the Foreign Minister who was speaking a little while ago. Excellencies, the heads of state and government, and the heads of delegations of the non-aligned movement. Excellency, representing the Secretary General of the UN, Antonio Guterres. Excellency Denis Francis, President of the 78th session of the UN General Assembly. Her Excellency the Vice President of Uganda and all other government and party leaders of Uganda. Fellow Ugandans, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Your Excellencies, the heads of state and governments, and the heads of delegations of the non-aligned movement countries. This grouping of countries accounts for 4.46 billion people of the world. It was started by our far-sighted elders in the persons of His Excellency Sukarno of Indonesia, His Excellency Jawaharlal Nehru of India, His Excellency Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt, and His Excellency Zhou Enlai of China, when they met in Bandung, Indonesia, 1955. That time I was in primary 3 in the school. The first summit of the non-aligned movement took place in Belgrade, Yugoslavia, in 1961, and was attended by Afghanistan, Algeria, Burma, Cambodia, Ceylon, Congo, Cuba, Cyprus, Ethiopia, Ghana, Guinea Conakry, I think here we're talking of Guinea Conakry, India, Indonesia, Iraq, Lebanon, Mali, Morocco, Nepal, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Sudan, Tunisia, United Arab Republic, Egypt, Yemen, and Yugoslavia. The emergence of the non-aligned movement was a necessary antidote to the irrational polarization of the world of that time between the capitalist Western countries and the communist, mainly Eastern countries. By the early 1960s, our student group was already beginning to be active. We were the third generation of the African anti-colonial freedom fighters. The first generation had been the African-American Pan-Africanists, such as Marcus Garvey, George Padmore, W.B. Du Bois, that had been joined by those who founded the African National Congress of South Africa in 1912. By 1900, the whole of Africa, except for Ethiopia, had been colonized. This direct colonization of the whole of the African continent was the culmination of 400 years of the plunder of Africa by the evil imperialist forces in the form of slave trade and the genocidal wars that went with it. The newly discovered Americas, Asia, China, and the Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, and so on, had been similarly aggressed, colonized, semi-colonized, like in the case of China, and plundered. We should only have free associations of nations, people of common or shared origin, interacting for mutual advantage with the peoples of the world. Therefore, we, the resistance fighters of Uganda, are flabbergasted and look down with contempt at the philosophical, ideological, and strategic shallowness of some of the actors of the world. Why not respect freedom of everybody if you say you are a Democrat? If you say you are a Democrat, why don't you respect the freedom of everybody? How can you say you are a Democrat and yet you want other people to be slaves? Why do you not seek influence? Why do you not seek to influence people by your good example instead of manipulation, lectures, and threats? Again, in the book of Matthew, it says, "Let your light so shine before men that they see your good deeds and praise your Father who is in heaven." Influence people by example, not by threats and manipulations. Chauvinists of race, religion, tribe, or gender should stop wasting our time and opportunities with their shallow schemes. Action will inevitably invite counteraction. Oppression will invite resistance. That is why we, the resistance fighters of Uganda, only fight just wars. We abhor unjust wars. The promoters of unjust wars lose most of the time. These are wars of imperialism, conquest, domination, etc. In the 500 years of European aggression against Africa, it was only from 1912, when the African National Congress was founded in South Africa, that modern freedom fighters came forward to lead the African resistance, the traditional, illiterate African chiefs having failed to defend our sovereignty, except for Menelik of Ethiopia, who defeated the Italian aggressors in 1896. It took the modern African resistance fighters only 82 years to clear the whole of Africa of these invaders, with South Africa being the last to get freedom in 1994. In that 82 years, you had the Mau Mau in Kenya, the resistance wars in Algeria, Mozambique, Angola, Guinea-Bissau, Namibia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, etc. We won everywhere. Our African brothers in all these wars won. But after losing a lot of time, why had the imperialists thought of dominating us in the first place? Therefore, the non-aligned movement was correct. The illogical polarization of the 1940s, 1950s, 60s, 70s, between the capitalists and communists was wrong. Why should new ideas cause tension? This was the mistake of people like Metternich of Austria-Hungary, who thought that the new ideas of capitalism that were challenging the feudal order in Europe could be blocked by war. The Austro-Hungarian Empire ended up disappearing from the face of the earth, and capitalism did not stop spreading. Our stand is that the world should concentrate on the common human problems: prosperity through trade, and that's why I'm very happy to see you here. When you are outside there, you may get stereotypes about Africa, that Africa, they have no food, they are starving. Here we are dying from food. We have so much food here.